Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Don't let this one nutrient rob your yield. Tonight we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked nutrients in agriculture, and that is boron. Rod here with A Better Way to Farm, where we're helping farmers become more profitable and taking complicated agronomy and making it practical. Today it's not just enough to survive. If we're going to survive, we've got to do better than that. We've got to have our systems in place that ensure return on investment. That's why June 4th, we're hosting a foliar feeding formula webinar. If you want to maximize your ROI this season, guys, one of the things that we see so often in agriculture is that recommendations that sound good, but do not actually make any sense. For instance, I hear people saying, and sometimes I think they're joking and sometimes I think they're not, they say things like, hey, plant early so you'll have more time to replant. Or if you're going to plant twice, you got to get started quick. You know, I hear people say things like, just do it as cheaply as you possibly can. Or other people saying speed, that's all that matters. Like somehow we're going to get a big check because we went really fast. I know timeliness is key, but timeliness is key. And sometimes going fast isn't timely. That same things happen when fertility is too much focused on only the N, the P, and the K. Not enough focus is on the micronutrients, and those are the ones that make the whole system work. Boron plays a major role in things like plant reproduction, pollination, sugar movement, root growth, cell wall strength, and nutrient uptake. What are some of the crops that use a lot of boron? Corn, soybeans, alfalfa. How many acres in the United States are growing those crops and have a zero boron applied ever? Ever. When these boron levels get low, the problems really start stacking up. What happens there? We see very poor pollen viability. We see very weak pollination. We see reduced seed sets, and we see a very poor root growth. It also reduces phosphorus uptake. It lowers potassium uptake, and we get more stress during the heat and the intense sunlight. I keep hearing everybody talk about mitigation, mitigate your stress. Guys, everything you do correctly mitigates stress, and everything you do incorrectly creates stress. And so doing it all is kind of important. One of the other things that's really important about boron is that it's very mobile in the soil, so it will run away from you, but it's very immobile. It does not move within the plant. So when boron goes into the plant, it stays where it goes. That is why we see a trouble with that boron going into the leaves early, and it just sits there. And then we run short on boron later during the reproduction time, and yield will suffer. This is why our team has strongly encouraged people, and we believe this so strongly, that boron should be split applied. Instead of one large application, we believe that we should put some on at different times. Yeah, we put a little bit up front when we plant with our post-emerge chemicals or in a 2x2 band because we never apply boron on the seed. We'll put some on with post-emerge chemicals. We will come back and do some at side dress and maybe do some at fungicide. We can do all kinds of different ways of doing this, but we split it up throughout the growing season. Many years ago, my brother and I were doing our 1,000 test plots. We were people who were very interested in this, and we studied boron in an application test for 3 years, and we went in where we had a big need. We needed 6 pints to the acre according to the soil test. And so in one area we put on 3 pints, and right beside it we put on 6 pints at exactly the same time. We left a check strip, so it was 0, 3, and 6. The 0 to 3 got a big yield increase. Moving from 3 to 6, we got 0 yield increase. It yielded exactly the same. Now we went over another click, and we applied 3 pints early, and we came back and put 3 pints on late. That got another additional yield increase. And what we learned out of doing that those 3 years was that timing matters as much or maybe more than rate. Guys, over and over again, we have seen split application outperform large single applications. Even when the total amount is applied exactly at the same time, we see the split application beat it. Another thing that a lot of farmers don't realize is how much impact boron has directly on phosphorus and potassium uptake. Guys, we put on a lot of phosphorus, we put on a lot of potassium because we know we need them. And the fact of the matter is, because the boron impacts, number one, the mycorrhiza fungi, and the mycorrhiza, of course, will come in and help us uptake more P and more K and more a lot of other things. And all of a sudden, that's important. So having adequate boron in there does increase the uptake of P and K. Studies have shown that P and K uptake will increase within hours of a boron application. Just in a few hours, uptake will go on. And when we do that, all of a sudden, it's like we're getting free fertilizer. It's already there. We just got to get it into the plant. One of our credos that Karen says a lot is that everything affects everything else. We can put on more fertilizer all day long. But if the plant cannot efficiently move the nutrients and move the energy, profitability is going to take a hit. Soil testing and tissue testing are always going to matter. It's always going to make a difference because we don't want to wait for visual deficiency symptoms. By the time we see the problem with the naked eye, yield has already been impacted severely. Typically, everything we read says that's about a 15 bushel threshold. By the time I see it, 15 bushel is gone. So what's our recommendation? Number one, know your boron levels in the soil. Run a soil test. You guys have heard me say this. Pull your soil test out. If your boron level is 0.8 or below, you know you're getting a yield decrease. If you pull out your soil test and it doesn't have a boron level reading on it, fire your agronomist. I'm not being funny and I'm not being mean. It's 2026, people. This isn't something that we're debating on whether or not we should be checking for boron. And if we have somebody who is failing to do something so basic, it's probably time to get a replacement. And by the way, guys, we know that we want this boron available all season long, and that goes back to that split application that we were talking about. Boron is a perfect example of why foliar feeding strategies matter. Because with foliar feeding, timing and placement and rates and nutrient balance, which can either help your crop improve or waste your money, can be addressed. That's, folks, why we're hosting the Winning Foliar Feeding Formula webinar on June 4th. We're going to break it down. We're going to see what makes foliar feeding actually work, and we're going to see why a lot of foliar feeding programs fail. We're going to see how nutrients like boron impact yield, and we're going to see the mistakes that are costing farmers dollars and dollars every single season.